Well, here we have one of Lionel's new ready-to-play sets. And we're going to check it out today on Toby's Trains. Okay, so what we have here is Lionel's new Thomas and Friends ready-to-play set. And as you can see plainly on the box, it comes with Thomas the Tank Engine and his coaches Annie and Clarabelle. Plus, it comes with 3 interchangeable faces. And on the back, you can see it's right here. You can have many different layout options, and right here it shows what all comes in the set right here. And as you can see on the top of the box, it has a handle for easy carrying for on the go. Okay, so what we're going to do now is open up the box and see what all is in the set. And as you can see, Lionel packages these sets very well. And as you can see, and right off the bat, you can see Thomas and Annie and Clarabelle, plus the interchangeable faces and the curved sections of track. And right here you can see the remote that you can operate, that you run Thomas with. Oh, and right here is the manuals and the instruction manual. And by the way, these manuals are very important to read when you're new to these. Anyway, now to open up the packaging. Man, Lionel does package these sets very well, both inside and out. And there's Thomas. Here's Annie. Ooh. And here is Clarabelle. And right here is the remote. As you can see, there are 3 buttons on the remote. There's one for the whistle, there's one for the bell, and then one for the announcements. This right here is the throttle. And you turn it this way to go forward, and then this way to go backwards. When it's straight up and down like this, it would be in neutral. It wouldn't go anywhere. Right here are the interchangeable faces. And right here are some of the sections of curved track. And as you can see, the plastic isn't very flimsy, or actually, kind of is somewhat. But I'm not complaining. I don't know if you can see it in the video very well, but there we go. There's the simulated graining in the wood and the ties, which I think is a nice touch. And right here are the last of the sections of track, including all the straight sections. So, with that being said, I'm going to put the track together and then put batteries in Thomas and in the remote. And then afterwards, we'll take a closer look. Now, the way the tracks connect is by lining this rail with this joint. If you look here, and it's the same with the other rail. And what I usually do is I grab one tie with my thumb and the other tie with my index finger and pull them together so that they will join until I hear a snap, like that. And it's the same with the other end of the section. Like that. So, this right here is the oval you can set up. Alright, now I'm going to show you how to put in the batteries in Thomas and in the remote. I'm going to start out with Thomas. And as you can see right on the top of the boiler, there's this for the on-off switch, which would happen to be his sand dome here, or his steam dome, either one of the two. And you turn it you turn the dome here counterclockwise to turn on, and then turn it clockwise to turn it off. Anyway, enough about that. The access to the battery compartment in Thomas is right here on the back. And for that, you'll need a Phillips head screwdriver. Ooh. Sorry about that sudden pop. This right here is where you put the batteries in. And Thomas requires a total of 6 C-size batteries. And you put them in like so. Kind of like that. And then you put it back in the right way. And then you screw it back on. And what I would do after putting the batteries in is to turn it on to make sure it works. And it does. Now onto the remote. Alright, now we're going to place batteries in the remote. And we're going to do so according to the directions on page 7. And for the remote, you'll need 3 AAA batteries. And speaking of batteries, Lionel doesn't supply batteries for the remote or Thomas. You'll have to supply your own. Like with Lionel's Lion Chief sets and their Lion Chief Plus engines. And you put the batteries in like so. Like this. And then what I would do is flip the switch on to make sure it works. And it does. Alright, now that that's done, we're going to take a closer look at Thomas and then the coaches, and then we're going to run this around the track for a bit. Alright, now we're going to take a closer look at Thomas. Okay, starting at the front, we got some nice detail, although it's sparse, but keep in mind, basic is the key word because of this being a starter set. Anyway, on the front here, you got a nicely done headlamp here, which is a nice touch. And you got nice buffer detail if you look closely. although it's sparse. And then you got the coupler chain, which is kind of sparse, but like I said, basic is the key word here. And you got a nice white running board, which is a nice touch. And like I said, this set comes with 3 interchangeable faces. This one being one of them. And the way to remove the faces is basic. Is easy. You just pull it off and then you can put it on, replace it with another one. Like that. Or like that. Now with this face, he looks pretty determined to do something. But out of the 3, my favorite is this one. Because he looks pretty cheerful that way. Okay, now we're going to look at the sides of Thomas. As you can see, the striping is kind of raised from the sides. Even if you take off this red pin striping, it's still there. And the number 1 here is just a decal, in case you're wondering. But it's a nice touch nonetheless. And this red pinstriping is the same with this yellow pinstriping on the window trim on both sides of the cab. And then you got these holes cut into the coal bunker, which is a nice touch. Now you may have seen the back of Thomas already. That was basically because I had to put in the batteries. But anyway, you got this, which I believe is the infrared sensor, which allows the electronics in the remote to communicate with the electronics in Thomas. But you got this coupler hook, which allows it to connect with either of the coaches. And like on the front, you got nice buffer detail back here. And as you can see, the backup lamp is white, like the headlamp, which is a nice touch. Here is a look at the other side of Thomas. And as you can see, it's basically the same. Although the pin striping arrangement is basically different. But it's still nice nonetheless. Okay, now we're going to take a look at the top of Thomas. Right here you've got the funnel. And then you've got this nice red pinstriping on the top of the boiler. And then you've got the steam dome, which is the on-off switch. You turn it counterclockwise to turn it on. And then when you're done running it, you can turn it clockwise to turn it off. And right here, you've got the whistle. And when you sound the whistle on this, it sounds exactly like Thomas's whistle. And then you got these cab windows, which look nice. And the cab roof here is not removable, in case you're wondering. The bunker on Thomas is pretty basic, but it's still nice nonetheless. And unlike Lionel's high-end O-scale steam engines, which have a realistic coal load made of real coal, this has a plastic coal load, but it's still nice nonetheless. On the underside of Thomas, there's not much to see, other than the fact that it's got 4 traction tires. two here, and two here. The middle drive wheels are, as you can see, have blind flanges. And the speaker for the sound system is right here. I almost forgot to show you a closer look at the driving wheels. As you can see, the spokes are halfway recessed, as you can see. And that's the same with the steps here that lead up to the running board. But as you can see, there's not much detail on the drive rod here. But that's to be expected with this being a basic ready-to-run set. Alright, that takes care of Thomas. Now let's take a look at the coaches. Alright, the first thing I'm going to do about these coaches is show you what the two coaches share in common. And then we're going to show you the differences between the two coaches. Alright, now I'm going to show you the side details. As you can see, they look pretty nice, although it's all basic. But like I said earlier, basic is the key word here, with this being a ready-to-run set. But as you can see, the lettering on these coaches is very nicely done. They did an excellent job. I gotta give Lionel a lot of credit for doing the lettering this nice. And the detail on the roofs of the coaches is very nicely done as well. It's kind of like what I saw in the first 12 seasons of Thomas and Friends. And this is a look at the other side of the coaches. This is a look at one end of each of the coaches. As you can see, it's pretty basic. But as you can see, you've got the buffer detail right there. And then you've got the coupler, kind of like on the back of Thomas. This applies to both ends of the coaches. And the detail on the bottom here is very nice. As you can see, it's very nicely done. On the underside, there's not much to see, but that's to be expected with this being a basic ready-to-run set. This is what the other end of each of the coaches looks like. Okay, now I'm going to show you the differences. The difference is that on Annie, the face looks like this. And on the sides, it's got the name Annie. Whilst on Clarabelle, it's got the name Clarabelle on the sides. And the face is different, as you can see. Alright, now I'm going to show you how to connect the coaches with Thomas. What you do is bring the coaches up to Thomas, and then you bring it close enough. It's just like that. Pretty simple. And then to disconnect it, what you do is come up with what I do is I come up with my index finger and middle finger and push them up like this. and then separate them like that. Alright, the last thing we're going to do before we fire this train up is BFIMO, best feature in my opinion. Well, this time around, it's kind of a weird one, but in my opinion, the best feature is the outward appearance of this train. In the past, back when I was a kid, Lionel's G-Gauge Thomas was kind of a caricature of Thomas, but this time around they hit it right on the money as far as how Thomas looks. So, best feature for this set is the outward appearance. Alright, now comes the fun part. It's time to fire up Thomas. Now that beeping means that it's searching for a signal. And to stop that, you just turn the remote on. And it's on, the light is on, the remote is on, and Thomas is good to go. Now, what you're hearing is the background sounds. Alright, now we're going to check out the sounds, starting with the whistle. And as you heard, it's exactly like Thomas's whistle, which I think is nice. And although it's unnecessary with this being a British train, here's the bell. The only engine in Thomas and Friends that really has a bell is Toby the Steam Tram. But in the case of Thomas, between the two sounds, the only one that's appropriate is the whistle. The whistle is activated by pressing the whistle button, like this. And the bell is activated by pressing the bell button on the remote. And the button in the middle is, if you press the middle button here, listen to what happens.
All aboard! We're on track and on time! All aboard! We're on track and on time!
That's basically the only phrase Thomas says when he's standing still like this. Now, when it comes to speed control, you basically turn it clockwise to go forward, like this, and then you turn it counterclockwise to go backwards, like this. And this is the slowest he'll go. Now when he's moving, pay close attention to his eyes. You'll probably see it better if I get a head-on shot. Alright, now let's get Thomas down the line.
All aboard! We're on track and on time!
And the farther you turn it, the faster he goes.
Number one engine coming through. Oh, yeah. All right. Full steam ahead. Now we're rocking. Number one engine coming through. Oh, yeah. All right. Full steam ahead. Now we're rocking.
This is how fast he is at top speed.
All right. Full steam ahead. Now we're rocking. Number one engine coming through. Oh, yeah. All right. Full steam ahead. Now we're rocking. Number one engine coming through. Oh, yeah. All right. Full steam ahead. Now we're rocking. Number one engine coming through. Oh, yeah. All right. Full steam ahead. Now we're rocking. All right. Full steam ahead. Now we're rocking. Number one engine coming through. Oh, yeah. All right. Full steam ahead. Now we're rocking.
Alright, that about wraps it up for this review. This is an absolutely gorgeous set that Lionel put out in their ready-to-play line of products. Now, if you're interested in purchasing one of these Thomas & Friends ready-to-play sets, the retail price is right at $100. Although if you would go through a good Lionel dealer, you might get a bit of a discount off of that retail price. Anyway, I'll wrap it up there. I'm Toby Pasman, and I will see you next time. Look at the coaches, starting with what these fire up Thomas. Or not.